Human history as we know it has only 6,000 years of written records. That's nothing compared to the 300,000 years our species has existed. Think about it. That's 294,000 years of complete silence. Enough time for entire civilizations to be born and die without leaving traces. But here's what changes everything we thought we knew. We're finding proof that ancient humans did incredible things they shouldn't have been able to do. Giant structures moved without machines, astronomical knowledge without telescopes, advanced mathematics carved in stone. How did primitive peoples know so much about the universe? What if they weren't primitive, but survivors trying to rebuild something much bigger that was lost? Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment from what part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you everything. Have you ever wondered how old human history really is? Most people grow up learning that the story of humans begins with what we can read in old books, tablets, or scrolls. These writings are from many, many years ago. But if you look at all of human history, writing is actually a very new thing. People only started to write things down about 6,000 years ago. When you read about the first kings, wars, or laws, they are only from this time or later. This seems like the beginning, but it is not the true start. Science has shown us that humans have been alive for about 300,000 years. This number is very, very big. Think about it. If you compare 6,000 years of writing to 300,000 years, you will see that most of the time people lived, there was no writing at all. For 294,000 years, people lived their entire lives without leaving letters, stories, or lists behind. There were no books to tell us what happened, what they believed, or what they built. In those early times, people ate, worked, loved, raised children, and died. They told stories to each other but did not write them down. These people built houses from stone, wood, or bones. They made tools from hard rocks, animal bones, or sticks. They hunted wild animals and gathered plants. They learned when to look for berries, when to fish, when to hide from cold and snow. Parents taught their children how to survive. Friends, families, and small groups shared their skills and ideas. But time passed and these early people disappeared. When their bodies and homes were gone, there was almost nothing left. We cannot ask them any questions. We do not know what words they used, what food they liked, or if they had celebrations. There is nothing written from these years, so we are left with a very big mystery. Even so, these people left some signs that they were here. Today, deep in the ground, scientists find pieces of their old tools, parts of old houses, or bones. Sometimes in special caves there are paintings of animals, people, or simple shapes. These old things are all we have to learn about their world. It is hard to picture a time so long ago. Imagine living in a world with no writing, no money, no cities, no one far away knowing your name. Your life would be simple and also hard. You would depend on the seasons and the land around you. You would live with your family and a small group and try to stay safe and warm. We know so little about these years because so little was left for us. The story of humans is not only in books, most of it is hidden in the earth, in old stones, bones, tools, and strange marks on cave walls. Science had to find new ways to look for answers. Instead of only reading, people learned to search the ground, move rocks, and look at broken bits and pieces. For the longest time, people believed that real history only began when there was writing. They thought old people from before writing must have lived like animals. They thought these people had no big ideas, no art, no plans, no dreams. But as scientists looked closer, they began to discover things that did not match this idea. Old tools show signs of skill and care. Some houses were strong and warm. Some food was cooked in simple ovens or over fire. In a few caves, paintings show animals, shapes, or even groups of people hunting or dancing. Some stone tools are so well made that they must have taken many years to learn. Slowly, people began to see that life long ago could be rich and interesting, even without writing. Imagine walking in a forest and finding a stone in a strange shape. Maybe it is smooth and round or cut in a way that does not look natural. Maybe you find a small pile of stones in a pattern. You may not know what it means, but someone long ago placed it there. Each small thing that remains from this time is a little clue, but the full story is lost. Sometimes, in places far from cities, scientists dig deep holes in the earth. They carefully brush away dirt and look for anything made by people. They might find a knife made from stone or pieces of broken pots. In some places, they find the walls of old houses or fire pits where people once cooked and gathered for warmth. In caves, paintings tell us what animals were important or what people wanted to remember. These finds are rare, and each one is important. They show us that people in the far past had ideas and skills. They changed their world in small ways. They found ways to live in cold, heat, rain, or dry places. Sometimes they moved from place to place, and sometimes they stayed in one spot for a long time. Why did so little from those times last until now? The answer is time and nature. When someone leaves a wooden bowl in the rain, it soon rots away. When a body is left on the ground, animals and weather wash it away. Only the hardest things, stone, bones, teeth, can stay for thousands of years. Everything else disappears. That is why we only find a few things. But even with just these clues, we can learn a lot. For example, when scientists find tools made from a certain kind of rock, far from where those rocks grow, it means people traveled or traded. If they find fire pits with special seeds, it means people knew which plants to eat. If there are animal bones all of the same kind, that may show what people like to hunt. These are small pieces of a big puzzle, a puzzle where most of the pieces are missing. Still, each new discovery helps us see a little more clearly. We cannot see the colors of their clothes or the smiles on their faces, but we can see what they built, how they made tools, and what they ate. We can see which animals they hunted or painted on the walls. Over many years, more and more things have been found. In Africa, in caves, in mountains, and near old rivers, scientists have found tools, bones, and houses from tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. In some places, footprints have been found showing people walked in groups or families. What does all this mean for our story? It means that the real start of human history is much older than any book can tell you. Human life without writing lasted for thousands of generations. Your great-grandparents are only a few generations above you. Try to imagine what could change over 50, 100, or 1,000 generations. So, if most of our story is missing, how do we even begin to understand it? Scientists use their best ideas, careful digging, and modern tools to study what is left. Each find is studied for its shape, how it was made, what it was made from, and where it was found. They use math and chemistry to guess how old it is. They compare finds from different places to look for patterns. Sometimes there are big surprises. Sometimes a tool or house is much older than anyone thought possible. This can change what everyone believes about humans in the past. Maybe people were smarter or worked together more than we thought. Maybe they knew things about the land, the sky, or even the stars. It is hard to imagine, but for the largest part of our story, there was no writing, no schools, no history books. All learning was passed from parent to child, from friend to friend. Instead of reading, people watched, listened, and tried things by hand. Skills were shared in this way for hundreds of thousands of years. This is important because it shows that being human is not just about writing or making big buildings. It is about finding new ways to live, to use language, to shape tools, to build safe homes, and to help each other. It is about surviving together in a world full of danger and change. There are still many questions. Were there bigger groups? Did people come together to make large villages or towns before writing was invented? Did they have chiefs, heroes, healers, or wise ones to guide them? Did they make music that we can never hear? Did they celebrate the sun, the moon, or the rain? These are the kinds of questions that fill the empty spaces in our story with wonder. When you look at the oldest things left by people, you can sometimes feel a little connection. The shapes of hands painted on cave walls, the smoothness of a favorite stone tool, or the way stones are stacked in a circle all show that people long ago were thinking and feeling just like us. They loved their children. They worried about storms. They hoped for luck when they hunted. They wanted their families to be safe. This long gap before writing shows us how strong people have always been. To live for such a long time, to grow in number, and to change the world little by little is a sign of great skill and luck. Modern life is very different, but the basic needs, food, water, shelter, family, and safety, have always been there. The world has changed so much since then. Deserts have grown, rivers have moved, forests have vanished, and new plants and animals appeared. People have moved from place to place, sometimes running from danger, sometimes looking for a better life. Each move has left signs, hidden trails, broken tools, piles of old bones. One thing is sure, the true story of humans is much older and much greater than any single book or written line can tell. It is not just about old kings, battles, or temples. It is about all the quiet and careful actions of people for hundreds of thousands of years. At every campfire or riverbank, groups shared food, songs, and stories. Most of those stories are lost forever, but the spirit of learning and sharing lives on. Now, when we see a scientist digging in the ground, holding an old stone, or looking at a strange mark in a cave, we know they are searching for these early traces. They are asking, who were these people? How did they live? What did they dream? Every answer is a step closer to filling the great mystery. And even if the story is made from only a few stones or bones, it is a story of hope, of survival, and of the beginning of everything we are today. The world left behind by people who did not write anything is full of questions and mysteries. There are no names for us to remember. There are no stories that describe what happened each day. To find answers about these distant times, scientists had to invent new ways to look for clues. These scientists are called archaeologists. They help us look back into human history much further than any book can reach. Archaeologists spend their lives searching for the things that people left behind a long time ago. Their main tool is not words, but the ground itself. They dig in the places where people once lived, hunted, built shelters, or buried their dead. Every place where people stayed, even for a short time, can keep important clues. After many years, the dirt covers what people dropped or lost. This is how the earth saves these small pieces for so many centuries. Each clue can be important. A broken stone knife, a piece of bone, or a burned seed helps us imagine how people once lived. When a group of archaeologists finds a spot where people used fire, they may discover dark marks in the soil, along with the remains of burnt wood or animal bones. If they find many broken stones, they know that people made tools here, tried to sharpen stones, and left behind the ones that were not good enough. If they find a circle of stones, it could show where people cooked their food, warmed themselves, or told stories during cold nights. In cold caves, in deserts, on top of hills, and near old rivers, archaeologists dig. They use simple tools like small shovels, brushes, and even their hands. It is slow work, They must move the earth gently so nothing breaks or gets lost. They also write down where they find each thing, because the exact spot can give an important clue. After a full day of digging, they look at each stone or bone with care, trying to think about what it meant to the people who first used it. Sometimes the clues seem very ordinary. A simple stone tool or the tooth of a wild animal might not look important, but if you find many similar tools in one place, you learn that a group spent much time there, making their lives together. You can guess what kind of animals they hunted by looking at the bones. You can see if they cooked food with fire by looking at the ashes mixed in the dirt. Bit by bit, picture by picture, archaeologists build a story using only what is left behind. Not all clues are easy to understand. Sometimes, bones have strange marks that look like cuts or scrapes. These marks might show how people used tools to take the meat or skin from an animal. In a few rare places, the bones themselves are from humans. By looking at them, scientists can learn if the people were old or young, strong or weak, healthy or sick. They can even tell if someone died in a fight, had broken bones that healed, or had teeth worn down by eating rough food. Food is an important part of the story. Very old seeds, nutshells, and even grains of pollen can sometimes be found in the earth. By studying these small things, archaeologists find out what kind of plants people ate or used. If they discover that the same plant was used over a wide area, it means people shared ideas and learned from each other. In dry or frozen places, there are times when even pieces of fruit, wood, or baskets survive. These special finds show us how people used natural things to make life better and more comfortable. Sometimes, archaeologists find parts of old houses, walls, or shelters. These are more than just piles of stones. They show skill in building, ways to keep warm, or how people protected themselves from rain and wild animals. By looking at the shapes of houses, how they were built and where they stood, scientists learn about family life, groups, and even early villages. When ruins of many small houses are found together, it proves that people learned to live in groups and to share space, water, and food. Tools were always needed. Most early tools were made from stone because stone lasts a very long time. Some stones were just picked up and used to break open bones or nuts. After some time, people learned to shape stones into sharp points for cutting, scraping, or hunting. Flint, obsidian, and other hard rocks were favorites for making these tools. Tools from bone and wood did not last as long, but sometimes they are found in places where the ground is very dry or where water kept them safe. When a tool is found, archaeologists look at every edge, every mark, to see if it was used to cut, smash, or dig. In some special places, archaeologists find things that do not come from the land around them. For example, a stone may be found that is only made in mountains very far away, or a piece of shell from the sea is found in a place far from the coast. These clues show that people traveled, traded, or shared things over very long distances. Each time this happens, it means that people had ways to meet, share news, or move objects from one group to another. Sometimes, what is left behind is art. Deep inside caves, there are paintings and carvings made by people who lived many thousands of years ago. They painted with colors made from crushed rocks, mixed with fat or water. The pictures show animals, people, dots, and lines. Some paint their hands, leaving the shape for everyone to see. These paintings are not written words, but are messages from the past. They tell us what animals lived nearby, what people thought was important, or what they hoped for. Some paintings are big and colorful, others are small, careful marks. Every one is a window into the lives of people long gone. In more recent times, people learned to make objects from clay. Clay comes from the ground and is soft when wet, but becomes hard when fired in a hot oven or fire. Sometimes very old pieces of clay pots, bowls, or figures are found where people once lived. These show that people learned how to make and use containers. A pot could carry water, save food, or help with cooking. Broken pieces of clay can be stronger than you think. Archaeologists find many little pieces and can sometimes fit them together like a puzzle. In places where people learned to farm, the remains of old plants and fields can sometimes be found. By looking at the soil, the shape of the land, and the seeds that are still there, archaeologists learn how people grew food. Farming meant people could stay in one place for a long time and have more children. This changed the way people made shelters, the things they needed, and how they lived together. These changes are seen in the ground, in the patterns of walls, fields, and tools. Bones of animals are another important clue. If many bones from the same kind of animal are found together, it means people hunted them often. If the bones are from young or easy animals, it shows what people could catch. In some places, animal bones are shaped into tools, jewelry, or simple art. A bone with holes could be a flute, making music that we cannot hear now. These bones tell a story about what people ate, the animals they found or kept, and what was special to them. Each find, from the smallest seed to a painted wall, helps archaeologists ask better questions. They use special techniques to learn how old a thing is. Sometimes they count the rings in a tree or measure small pieces of carbon left in burned wood or bones. This way, they can tell if a thing is 10,000, 20,000, or even older than 40,000 years old. The puzzle of time is always hard, but every answer helps put the story together. Of course, archaeologists do not work alone. They meet with other scientists, like people who study plants, bones, or ancient weather. By sharing their discoveries, they help each other make a bigger picture of human life. Some scientists look at the land and try to guess where old people might have camped for water, safety, or hunting. Others look at stones or pottery and can tell exactly what kind of rock or clay it is and where it came from. Everyone helps in this search for answers. Not all finds are clear or easy to explain. Sometimes a tool looks like it was made by people, but might just be a strange rock. Sometimes lines in a cave are from animals, water, or tree roots, not people. Archaeologists are careful not to make mistakes because every wrong answer makes the story less true. They talk with other experts and double-check their work many times. There are times when archaeologists find something very strange, an object that does not match anything else from the same time or place. Maybe it is a tool shaped in a new way, or a building that uses large rocks stacked together very tightly. These mysteries make scientists excited and curious. If a group of people made something new, it can show how they solved problems, learned from others, or changed the world in their small way. Some places in the world have layers of history, with different groups living in the same spot over thousands of years. When digging, archaeologists find the newest things near the top and the oldest deep down. Each layer is like a chapter in a long story. By going deeper, they travel back in time, finding new clues and forgetting the newer world above. All these efforts might seem slow, but they are the only way to travel back through the long years when people left no writing. Archaeologists are patient. They may spend days, months, or even years in the same place looking for every last clue. When they leave a place, they leave the land as they found it. They carry away only a few tools, a notebook full of drawings, and maybe a bag of stones or small bones to be studied later. Their greatest reward is a better understanding of how people once lived. Each stone, bone, or painting is a message that life was rich and full, even when it was hard. People built houses, made tools, cooked, worked, and dreamed. In many ways, early life was about the same basic things as today: staying safe, finding food, and caring for loved ones. The next step is to look at the things archaeologists sometimes find that seem almost impossible. Sometimes they discover something so surprising that it changes old ideas about what people could do in the past. These discoveries include huge stones, clever buildings, or objects made with great skill. As more and more of these strange finds appear around the world, scientists begin to wonder how much people really knew, even before books and writing. Each new question helps us understand the journey of humans, from simple beginnings to more complex and surprising ideas. Sometimes what archaeologists find in the ground is so unexpected that it makes people wonder how much early humans really knew. In many places across the world, there are remains of very old buildings and objects that show amazing skill. These buildings and objects raise many questions because some are made in ways that seem too clever or too difficult for their time. One kind of discovery is the very large stones that early people moved and placed with great care. Some of these stones are so heavy that even today it would take many workers and special machines to move them. Yet these stones were cut, shaped, and put into place by people who did not have machines. These stone structures can be found in many places. They are sometimes arranged in circles, lines, or rows. In some places they are built into walls that are still standing after thousands of years. In different countries, there are buildings made from stones that fit together so tightly that it is hard to place even a thin piece of paper between them. These stones are not simple shapes. Many are cut in special ways with many sides. They fit together like a puzzle. Some of these buildings are still standing, even after wind, rain, and earthquakes. This shows that early builders knew how to make their work strong and lasting. There are also old walls and towers made from huge blocks of stone. Some blocks are as tall as a grown person or even bigger. To build with such large stones, people needed to lift and move very heavy things. The stones used are sometimes from far away, meaning that people had to move them across long distances, sometimes up hills or through forests. This task needed careful planning, teamwork, and a deep understanding of how to use simple tools like ropes, wood, and strong hands. Another surprising thing is the way some old buildings line up with the sun, the moon, or stars. In certain places, the position of the stones matches where the sun rises or sets on special days of the year. This means that the builders paid close attention to the sky. They knew when the seasons would change and when the days would start to grow longer or shorter. They may have used this knowledge to help them with farming, to know when to plant crops. It is also possible that these lines and placements were important for their beliefs or celebrations. There are marks carved into rocks that look like maps, patterns, or even something close to writing. Sometimes, simple lines and circles are cut into the strongest stones, creating shapes that people today still try to understand. A few of these marks match the movement of the moon or the stars. Other symbols look like they show the layout of rivers, mountains, or villages. Even though these are not real writing, they show that people were thinking and planning in careful ways. Some very old objects are made with such high skill that it looks like they were shaped by machines. People find stone spheres that are almost perfect circles, as smooth as anything made today. There are stone bowls and dishes cut so evenly that each side matches the other exactly. In some places, discs and rings are found that are made from the hardest rock, with holes drilled through them in straight lines. The question is how people could do this work without metal tools or electric power. There have also been discoveries of old stones and bones that look as if they were polished to a bright shine. Some people believe that there were ways to grind, smooth, and shape these objects that no longer exist today. The tools used to make these things have not been found, which makes the mystery even greater. In a few places, very old ruins of large buildings have been found on mountain tops and hidden deep in forests. These ruins are difficult for people to reach even now, so it is hard to imagine how early people brought all the stones and building materials there. Sometimes these buildings are far from water or good land for farming. Scientists ask why anyone would make so much effort to build in such a hard place to reach. Some think these places were important for special reasons, such as meetings, worship, or celebrations. There are also tunnels, caves, and passages dug deep under the ground in some places. These tunnels are long and wide enough for people to walk through. The walls and ceilings are smooth and sometimes have marks or small carvings. No one knows exactly why these tunnels were made or how the people dug them without strong metal tools. Some believe they were for storage, hiding, or moving safely from one place to another. Another mystery is the discovery of objects that look out of place because they are made with techniques that do not match the time when they were created. These are called out-of-place artifacts. For example, sometimes a very old object is made with a design or skill that seems to belong to a much later time. A carving or painting may show a building, animal, or tool that scientists believe did not exist yet. These strange finds make people wonder if ancient people knew more than we think. Structures with perfectly straight edges, holes, or smooth sides are also found in old ruins. Some stones look as if they were cut with very sharp blades or drilled with hard points. Sometimes there are patterns of small holes in lines or circles which look as if someone measured carefully. Without metal blades or drills, it is difficult to explain how early people made these things. There have also been discoveries of stones stacked in a certain way so that the buildings do not fall, even after thousands of years. In some places, the walls are built with large stones at the bottom and smaller stones at the top. This method makes the building strong and able to stand up to shaking from the earth or strong winds. These building methods show that people had experience and knowledge about weight, pressure, and balance. Sometimes, scientists find landscapes shaped by people in the past. For example, old roads, pathways, or straight lines made from stones or earth can be found when looking from above. When people look at these patterns from high places or from an airplane, shapes appear that cannot be seen from the ground. These shapes might be large animals, symbols, or lines leading to special places. It is still not clear how or why these people made such big patterns. There are also ancient water systems, such as canals, pools, or wells, that are found near ruins. These show that people learned how to move water from rivers or lakes to their farms and houses. Building long canals or digging deep wells takes careful planning and teamwork. It is surprising how early people found ways to solve the problem of water in dry or hilly land. Not all surprising finds are big. Sometimes very small objects are found that are made with great skill. These can be tiny beads or stones shaped into animals or faces. People wore them as jewelry, carried them as symbols, or used them in ceremonies. Some of these small objects are made from rare stones, shells, or bone, brought from far away. This shows there were ways for people to share and trade long before towns or cities appeared. People today continue to find strange things hidden under the ground or inside old caves. Every new discovery gives more questions than answers. When scientists study these objects and buildings, they see that the skills of early people were greater than once believed. It becomes clear that knowledge and ideas could have been passed from group to group or even lost and learned again many times. The more archaeologists look, the more they find that some old ruins and objects do not fit the simple story of slow and small progress. Instead, they show times when people worked together in large groups, used smart plans, or made things with special care. This makes the story of the past much more interesting and full of wonder. Sometimes the oldest ruins are more complex or better made than newer ones nearby. Questions about how these ancient people moved huge stones, cut hard rock so precisely, or built on difficult ground do not have easy answers. Some believe that early people found ways to use natural forces like water, wood, or even the power of the sun. Others think there are still lost tools or forgotten skills that helped them. Each new find adds to the puzzle. Because these old structures and objects are so surprising, they make scientists rethink what early humans could do. Instead of only surviving or making simple tools, it looks like some groups had advanced knowledge. They knew how to build, to measure, to work together, and to learn from what they saw every day. They might have kept this knowledge in their minds and shared it with each new generation. Sometimes people wonder if big disasters in the past destroyed buildings or tools that could explain these mysteries. When a group of people leaves a place or is destroyed by water, fire, or war, much of what they know is lost. New people who come later may find old stones or ruins, but not understand how they were made or used. There are stories from many parts of the world about places where special people built great structures a long time ago. In legends and tales, these buildings were made by wise builders or leaders. Sometimes these stories talk about lost knowledge, forgotten skills, or events that changed everything quickly. The number of ancient ruins and surprising objects being found grows each year. New ways to search, like using machines that see under the ground, help find stones, walls, and buildings that have been covered by earth for thousands of years. In forests, mountains, deserts, and even underwater, surprises are waiting. People keep asking how, why, and when these things were made. Ancient ruins are sometimes found far from where anyone lives today. Some are deep in jungles, on top of tall hills, or underwater close to the shore. These ruined places tell us people lived in and traveled through many different lands. They brought ideas and skills wherever they went. Some buildings are so hidden that only a few people ever see them. Great care is taken when these places are studied. Each stone, object, or mark must be left exactly where it is until everything is understood. Archaeologists take photographs and draw pictures of what they find. They use small tools so nothing is damaged. The goal is to learn as much as possible without destroying what is there. Knowledge from the past is fragile. If an old building or object is not protected, it can be lost forever. This is why scientists and local people sometimes work together to keep the biggest or strangest ruins safe. They make lists, build fences, or even put up small roofs to keep out rain and wind. Today, more people understand that very old buildings and objects are important, not only for history, but also for learning about what is possible. They show the patience, creativity, and wisdom of those who lived before us. These surprising discoveries are changing the way we think about our own abilities. It is no longer clear that we are the first to do certain things. Instead, it looks like people in the past may have already tried, built, learned, and passed on their knowledge. Some of their secrets may remain lost under the earth, waiting for someone to find them and see the world in a new way. Many of the amazing discoveries from long ago show us that early people were much more skilled than we first thought. It is easy to imagine them only surviving, only thinking about food, water, and safety. But when we look carefully at what they left behind, we see that their lives were full of ideas, plans, and creativity. Even though early people did not have books or electric lights or machines, their daily lives showed a deep understanding of the world around them. Everyday life in the ancient past needed many skills. People learned how to use stones, wood, bones, and plants in different ways. They could take a simple stone and turn it into a knife that cut meat or plants. They found sharp rocks that could be chipped to make points for hunting animals or for cutting and scraping. Some people learned to polish stones until they were smooth and useful. Other groups learned to tie sticks together with vines or animal hide, making spears, arrows, and simple bows. Making a tool was never easy. A person needed to find the right kind of stone, break it in a special way, and shape it with careful hands. A stone knife that lasted for many months could mean the difference between hunger and a full belly. Learning to make good tools was taught from one person to the next, again and again, over hundreds and even thousands of years. The shape of a tool could tell a person if it was good for hunting, cleaning animal skins, or making other tools. Early people also built houses and shelters. They learned which branches were strongest. They found which leaves kept out the rain. They dug pits in the ground for warmth and safety. In places with plenty of big rocks, they chose stones for walls or built simple walls for protection against the wind. Some groups built round houses, some built square shelters, and some dug deep into hillsides. Where trees were rich, people raised frames and covered them with animal skins. These choices all depended on the land, the weather, and the local plants and animals. Groups of people shared skills and work. A group might have hunters, builders, tool makers, and people who watched over the youngest and oldest. To live together, everyone had a task. Each person had to know how to find water, how to make and keep fire, and how to store food safely. Together, families or small communities planned what to do during each season. When it was cold, they hunted different animals and wore thick skins. When it was warm, they picked berries, fished, and followed animal herds. Learning about nature was very important. A group had to watch when the weather changed. By looking at the sky, the shape of clouds, and the habits of animals, they knew when rain might come, when it might get cold, or when plants would grow. They had to listen to the land, understand footprints, and know what sounds meant danger. Those who were good at noticing the smallest details could teach others in the group what they had learned. Early humans began to use fire for many things. They made fire by rubbing sticks or striking rocks together. With fire, they could cook meat, make food softer, and stay warm at night. Fire kept wild animals away. Sometimes, fire was used to clean places, prepare land for planting, or make simple torches to light the way in dark caves. People learned to choose the right wood for a long-lasting fire and to keep a small fire burning from day to day. Some of the oldest art in the world is found on cave walls. These paintings and carvings show that early people did not only worry about living, they loved to make things beautiful. With stones, colored dirt, or pieces of charcoal, they painted animals, shapes, and even hands on the walls of caves. Some pictures were very simple and some were full of detail. Sometimes they painted the animals they hunted, sometimes other people, and sometimes scenes of daily life. These works may have been ways to share stories, mark special events, or hope for good luck. Skills in making clothes also became important. When people hunted animals, they used not just the meat but also the skins and bones. Skins from animals could be cleaned, stretched, and softened. These hides became clothing, blankets, or coverings for homes. Thin strips of hide were used as thread or rope. With sharp bones or needles made from fish bones, people could sew pieces of skin together. Early people learned which plants gave strong fiber for weaving simple mats or baskets. Making pots, bowls, and dishes changed life in many ways. With clay from the ground, people could shape pots and then harden them in a fire. Pots let people carry water from rivers or store food for the winter. In places where simple ovens were built, people could even bake bread or cook food better than before. Each group made pots with special marks or lines, showing their own way of living. People learned to use the land in smart ways. In forests, they found nuts, berries, roots, and mushrooms. Near rivers or seas, they learned to fish with hooks or nets made from plants. Some groups learned to dig for clams or oysters. Those who lived near deserts picked plants that could survive with little water. Each group found their own secret foods and ways to live well, and these secrets were shared from older people to children. The skills of early people did not stop with things that could be seen or touched. They also watched the sun, moon, and stars. By paying attention to where the sun rose and set each day, people learned about time, seasons, and when changes would come. Some people marked days by cutting notches in sticks, tying knots in cords, or making marks on stones. These kept track of important times, when to hunt certain animals, when berries would ripen, or when the cold would end. Some groups gathered plants and seeds to grow their own food. At first, they picked plants right from the wild, but over time they learned to keep the best seeds and plant them in good soil. By doing this again and again, they grew more food and stayed in one place longer. This was the early beginning of farming. With extra food, families grew bigger and more people could live together. Farming made possible larger groups, more houses, and many new jobs for people. In places where people farmed, tools changed too. People needed to dig, to plant, to break tough ground. New tools were made from thick wood, shaped stones, or strong bones. Simple plows were used to scratch the earth. Rakes and hoes made planting crops easier. Sometimes animals helped pull heavy loads. As farming spread, the way people lived changed. The shapes of villages grew and skills improved. Food was stored in baskets, pots, pits in the ground, or even small houses built for storage. People learned to dry meat, store seeds, grind grain for flour, and keep fruits for winter. Good storage meant people could survive when food was hard to find. It also meant that a bad season did not always mean hunger. Skills of early people are also seen in healing and medicine. Long before doctors or hospitals, people found healing plants, learned how to close wounds, and took care of each other when someone was hurt or sick. Old bones show that some people healed from broken legs or arms, meaning someone helped care for them until they were better. Some plants were used for pain, others for infections. How these plants were found was through careful noticing and sharing of knowledge. Over many generations, important secrets were kept and shared. Music and song were part of daily life. Old flutes made from bird bones, drums made from animal skin, and simple rattles are still found in ancient places. People sang, danced, and played music together. Songs could tell stories, teach children, or help people work together. Some melodies were played during special times, such as the birth of a child, the start of a hunt, or a celebration after harvest. Music helped people feel close and remember good and bad times. Communication was clear among groups. Before there was writing, people used signs, gestures, and spoken words. Some groups created simple marks on rocks to share messages. Others left piles of stones in certain ways to mark a path or a boundary. These signals let people know where water was, where it was safe to go, or when danger was nearby. Sharing news was important, and people invented their own ways to send messages far and wide. Trade started between groups even before there were villages or towns. One group might find stones good for tools, while another group lived near seashells, animal skins, or wild plants. People began to meet and exchange the things they needed. Sometimes groups walked for many days to trade, making friends along the way and learning new ideas. Trade also brought news and helped spread knowledge about the world. Building canoes, rafts, or boats made it possible for people to cross rivers and lakes. Early boats were built from hollow logs or bundles of reeds tied together. These simple boats let people fish, explore, or travel to new places. Each boat was built with skill, using what was nearby. Over time, people learned how to make larger boats that could carry more people and goods. As groups grew, leaders and wise people appeared. Someone who knew how to heal, to hunt, or to solve a problem became important. People asked for advice, listened to stories, and learned from those who remembered the past. Teaching was done by showing, telling, and practicing together. The most important lessons were given from older people to the young, so that knowledge was not lost when someone died. Stories and memory were the books of early people. By repeating the same stories at night or during big events, people made sure their history was remembered. These could be stories of great hunts, brave people, strange animals, or special places. Sometimes, stories were about the beginning of the world or why things happened. By sharing and remembering stories, a group could keep its identity and teach its values. There was respect for the dead and old people. Graves from many thousands of years ago show that people sometimes buried loved ones with stones, beads, tools, or simple gifts. It is possible that early people believed in a life after death. This respect shows care, love, and the idea that each person was important. Games, contests, and playful activities were part of human life. People raced, threw stones, jumped, or made up simple games with sticks and bones. These helped children learn, grow strong, and practice skills for later life. All these small skills, habits, and ideas built up over hundreds and thousands of years. With each generation, more knowledge was shared. Sometimes an idea started in one group and spread to others. Sometimes a new tool or way of doing something was invented by accident and then became common. Even when disasters happened and some groups disappeared, their ideas could live on in others. A song, a story, a way of making a pot or building a house might travel with people to new lands. This is why today some skills or tools are found in very distant places. Looking at all these things, it is easy to see that the people who lived before us were not only clever, but also very strong and very good at solving problems. They used what they had, watched nature, learned by doing, and remembered what worked well. Their lives were full of challenge, but also full of success, wonder, and hope. The story of early people is a story of learning and teaching, of trying and sharing, and of making life better with every small discovery. Sometimes when archaeologists find a strange building or a perfect stone tool, it is not only a sign of hands at work, but also a sign of minds thinking, planning, and dreaming of new things. The world slowly changed as each new skill brought more ways to live, work, and build stronger families, bigger groups, and new communities. All this knowledge set the stage for the first villages, towns, and perhaps great lost cities that would one day rise from the dreams and skills of early people. As early people became better at living together and sharing knowledge, their groups slowly grew in size. Over time, some groups stayed in the same place for longer, especially in places where water, food, and good land were easy to find. When people stayed in one place, their homes changed from small, simple shelters to bigger and stronger houses. A few groups built many houses close to each other, making small villages. In some places, these villages grew larger and lasted for many years. This change allowed new ideas and skills to spread quickly, making life easier for everyone. When groups lived together, it was easier to help each other. They worked together to build strong walls, dig wells, and protect themselves from dangers. Some houses were built in circles or rows, showing that people planned where to live. As more people joined the group, they needed bigger spaces for meetings, storing food, and sharing meals. Large open areas in the center of a group of houses became places where people talked, made plans, or held simple celebrations. These places also gave children space to play and learn from watching older people. Sometimes, these villages were built near rivers, lakes, or forests. People used boats to move along rivers or fish for food. They cut down trees to build houses and make fires. With water close by, they could keep animals, water plants, and wash themselves. When there was a lot of food and water, groups could grow much bigger. Some villages had hundreds of people. They needed ways to work together, share tools and land, and solve problems. Living in a large group was not always easy, so people learned rules about fairness, safety, and helping each other. In places around the world, scientists have found the remains of these early villages. Sometimes only the stones or heavy posts remain after thousands of years. The shapes of old houses can be seen in the ground. Walls or lines of stones show where people planted food or marked the edges of their village. Sometimes bits of broken pots, animal bones, or simple jewelry are found, giving clues about what daily life was like. Some of these finds are in places where it is now very hard to live. Large stones from old walls sit in the middle of thick forests or high mountains. Some villages are now under sand or hidden in wet places. When archaeologists dig in these old sites, they find surprises. They might find a house much older than they thought possible, or tools that show great skill. Sometimes they find many rooms or special buildings for meetings, food storage, or working together. There are places in the world where people built huge walls or lines of stone to mark their land or protect themselves. These walls are often built from rocks carefully shaped to fit together. Without machines, early people must have worked for a long time and with many hands to build such strong walls. The planning and teamwork needed were very important. The walls show that people cared about safety, order, and maybe even beauty. In a few places, lost cities have been found where people once lived in great numbers. Some of these cities were covered by forests, buried under dirt, or destroyed by floods or fire. When people left or were forced to leave, the land slowly covered their homes and streets. Hundreds or thousands of years later, only bits of stone, pottery, or broken tools showed where the city once stood. Sometimes new people built villages on top of old ruins, not even knowing there was a lost city below. One special sign of early villages and cities is the way people built straight roads or paths to connect houses, fields, or places for meeting and trading. These roads made it easy to move heavy things or for groups to meet together. Scientists who look from airplanes or high places can sometimes see the lines of these old roads or the shapes of fields under the earth or grass. Some roads are very straight, going for many miles. Other paths twist around hills and through forests. Even when roads and cities are gone, the marks on the ground can stay for a very long time. As villages and cities grew, people started to do special kinds of work. Some became builders, toolmakers, or traders. Others watched over food and water, or protected the group from wild animals or strangers. Skilled people taught apprentices who later became experts themselves. Where groups were large enough, special leaders helped make decisions, solve arguments, and keep the peace. These leaders were often chosen for their knowledge, bravery, or skill at speaking. Food was important for every group. People dug fields, planted seeds, and cared for animals. Wells, ponds, and water channels were built so everyone had enough to drink and water their plants. Some villages had large areas for farming, while others kept animals in shelters. Working together meant more food could be grown and kept for hard times. Groups learned to store extra food in pots, pits, or simple buildings. When there was enough food, people had more time to make clothes, build better houses, or learn new skills. Trade grew quickly in places with big villages. People who lived near rivers could fish and trade for grain or fruit. Groups near mountains traded stones, clay, or animal skins. When travelers came from far away, they brought new things, new foods, and new ideas. Beads, shells, colored stones, and sharp tools were all traded from group to group. This exchange made each place richer and more interesting. People talked with traders, learned new words, and sometimes made friendships that lasted through many seasons. As more things were traded, people needed ways to measure, count, and keep track. Simple marks on stones or notches in bones helped people remember how much they traded or owed. In some places, groups made small tokens of clay or stone for counting. Early counting and simple math started because people needed fairness in trade. Special people in these larger villages became experts in healing or watching the sky. Some learned that certain plants helped with pain and sickness. Others watched the stars and moon, helping decide the best time to plant, hunt, or harvest. These early experts were respected and sometimes became teachers, sharing their wisdom with all. Rituals and celebrations became even bigger when groups grew larger. People gathered for dances, stories, or to say thanks for food and water. In special places, they built stone circles, earth mounds, or simple temples to mark the seasons or honor important days. These places were sometimes at the center of the village, on a high hill, or beside a river. Some villages built defenses to stop wild animals or protect against other groups. Ditches, fences, or tall walls were built to keep everyone safe. High places in the village could be used to see danger early. Night watches guarded the group while others slept. Even with strong villages, life was not always easy. Floods, storms, disease, or fire could destroy houses and crops. Sometimes groups had to move to new places if food was scarce or water dried up. But when people left, they often left behind walls, broken pots, or signs of their lives. Other people sometimes found these remains and built their own homes there, using old stones or tools they found. Many lost villages and cities were forgotten for a long time. Forests covered roads and houses. Rivers changed their paths, burying streets under mud. Archaeologists search for these hidden sites. Sometimes, old stories or tales help show where to look. Other times, new roads or buildings uncover lost walls or objects. Each new discovery brings questions about who lived there, how they worked, and why they left. Some places with many ruins show signs of order and planning. Houses are built in neat lines or circles, not at random. Water and food are stored in special places. There are paths from one place to another. This planning means people work together and shared ideas. In some lost cities, objects are found that came from far away. Shells from the sea are found on high mountains. Stones for tools are found in places where they do not grow. This means that long-distance trade and travel happened even when roads were just paths in the grass or dirt. Old pots, dishes, or figures found in large groups show that some places were used for meetings, markets, or celebrations. Sometimes, special buildings are found that were used for leaders, gatherings, or food storage. These buildings were bigger and better built than simple houses. Jewelry and small objects are sometimes found buried with people. This shows that important people or leaders may have been honored after death. Some graves are very simple, with just a few stones or beads. Others are big, with many objects as gifts. The range of grave types means people cared about family, memory, and respect for the dead. Not all lost villages are easy to find. Many lie under fields, cities, or forests. Others are washed away by water, buried in sand, or broken by time. But even when only a few stones are left, these places tell the story of people coming together, working, and building a life with others. Sometimes groups merged with neighbors. Trade, marriage, or shared problems brought groups together. In this way, new villages or small cities formed, with a mix of skills, ideas, and traditions. With each new group, more knowledge was shared and passed down. As people built larger villages, they found new ways to organize work, food, celebrations, and safety. Some became famous for making special tools or objects. Others were known for strong walls, rich land, or peaceful meetings. Each place, whether large or small, added to the growing story of humans living together. In many places, forgotten villages and cities wait to be found. The land covers old secrets, but careful searching brings them back to life. Some old places are found by accident. Others are found after years of looking. Every new village or city adds to what we know about how people worked, lived, and grew as families and groups. Each discovery makes it clearer that early people not only survived, but also built real communities, shared ideas, and created places that lasted far beyond their own lives. By looking at the patterns of old walls, roads, and fields, scientists learn how groups planned their homes. By finding objects from far away, we see how people reached out to others. By studying graves and special buildings, we know how people remembered and honored each other. The ruins of lost villages and cities are proof that human life has always been shaped by hope, work, change, and the need to belong. Even when a village was forgotten, its stones, walls, and fields were waiting under the earth. As archaeologists find and share these pieces, they help everyone understand how we became the people we are today and how losses, disasters, and great changes sometimes made people start again from what was left. Learning about these places helps explain how much knowledge and skill early people once had. It also raises new questions about how entire groups, and perhaps even large and complex civilizations, could disappear quickly, leaving only scattered ruins behind for future eyes to wonder about. When people build villages and cities, they hope these places will last for a long time. They work hard to make strong walls, deep wells, and safe homes. They pass on knowledge and traditions from parents to children. But even the strongest towns can be changed or destroyed in a short time by something powerful. Sometimes a disaster comes without warning and changes everything. In old times, disasters could be storms, floods, big fires, earth-shaking, disease, or other dangers that people could not control or always predict. In many parts of the world, there are stories about great disasters written in old books or remembered by families. These stories talk about water covering the land, fire falling from the sky, or the ground moving and swallowing towns. In some places, legends tell about a mountain that exploded or a wave so big it took away whole villages. When scientists look at the Earth, they find signs that these kinds of things really happened. A flood can wash away fields, houses, and people in only a few hours or days. When a river overflows or the sea rises, water covers everything. People who live through a flood must leave their homes and try to survive with only what they can carry. Mud, rocks, and broken trees are left behind, covering the old roads, walls, and even bodies of those who did not escape. After a very big flood, most signs of a village or city can be buried and lost. Earthquakes are another danger. When the ground breaks or shakes, buildings fall down and people are hurt or killed. Strong earthquakes can change rivers, flatten villages, and open deep cracks in the ground. Even huge walls and strong houses are sometimes not enough to keep people safe. After the shaking stops, finding water, food, and shelter becomes very hard. If a city loses most of its people, it may never be rebuilt. Volcanoes are also a part of Earth's story. A volcano can suddenly explode with fire, ash, and hot rocks. Everything nearby can be burned or buried under ash in a few minutes or hours. Whole cities have disappeared under black earth and stone. When this happens, survivors often move far away, leaving their homes behind. Over time, grass, trees, and new houses can cover the place where the destroyed city once stood. Later, only strange hills or rocks show what happened. Fire can destroy houses and food very quickly. In villages made from wood, dry grass and clay, one small fire can grow big, burning everything. When a storm brings lightning, it can start fires in the forest or homes. Without water to stop the flames, people must run for safety. After fire, only a few stones may be left to mark where people lived. Sometimes, disease comes to a village or city. Old sicknesses could quickly move through a group, making many people sick at the same time. When many die, there are fewer to plant food, take care of children, or watch for danger. Sometimes, all that is left are empty homes and broken tools. If no one comes back, the place is slowly covered by plants, dust, or earth. Other dangers came from the sky or from far away. A big rock from space, a meteor, can crash into the earth. When this happens, dust and fire fly up and cover the sky, making it hard for plants and animals to live for a long time. If this happened near a group of people, their land could become cold, dark, or unsafe. Many animals might die, and all the work of many years could be lost. Sometimes, rivers change their path, or the sea moves slowly closer, taking away fields and villages. The land where people planted food or kept animals becomes too wet, too dry, or full of salt. With little food, groups must leave and find new homes. The old houses slowly break down, and all the stories of the people who live there get buried under mud, sand, or water. After a disaster, very few people might survive. These survivors need to begin again with what they remember. Sometimes they are children or old people, and they do not know everything the group once knew. Some important skills and memories are lost forever. Survivors might look for other people, mix with new groups, or move to a new land. They bring only some of their knowledge. Many secrets, ways of building, or stories disappear forever when a disaster destroys a whole village or city. When disasters strike, they change more than just the land. They change families, memories, and the way people live. Knowledge that took hundreds or thousands of years to collect can be lost very quickly. After a disaster, new people who visit an old place may not understand why stones are shaped in certain ways or where roads once went. They may find only pieces that once made sense but now look strange. Many old songs, traditions, or ideas come from remembering past disasters. People who live in places where floods or fires have come tell their children how to stay safe. They warn against building too close to rivers, lakes, or on land that shakes or burns. Some traditions are stories about how a whole group survived a great disaster and started again somewhere else. These memories might change as they are told again and again, but the deep feeling of loss and hope always remains. Sometimes, when archaeologists dig, they find burned layers in the earth, covered by clean earth or new houses. These burned layers show that a fire or disaster happened. In other places, thick mud covers the remains of old streets, pots, and bones. In a few places, buildings are found under ash or sand, very well protected, but all life gone. When they see these signs, scientists know that something sudden happened. The people did not plan to leave. They had to run away quickly, or they did not escape at all. Some old cities or villages show signs of being rebuilt many times. Layers of broken walls, new floors, or different kinds of pottery show that people kept coming back after disasters. Sometimes, each new group built on top of what was left, not knowing the whole story of those who were there before. Over hundreds or thousands of years, the ground rises as more ruins are covered by earth and new villages appear above. Even when no big disaster comes, a group can disappear slowly. If water dries up, if food becomes harder to find, or if new groups bring trouble, people might move away little by little. When the last families go, Only the ruins stay. After a long time, trees, grass, and animals move back. The stones, bones, and broken tools remain as silent signs of people who once lived there. Nature can also help keep secrets about disasters. In some deep lakes, mud falls layer by layer, saving tiny pollen, dust, or ashes from long ago. By looking at these layers, scientists can tell when small or big disasters happened, how the climate changed, or when big fires burned the land. In this way, scientists see the hidden story of how people lived with and survived disasters. In many places, there are legends of places lost under water, earth, or sand. Some talk about whole cities taken by the sea, or of mountains falling on villages in the night. Many old cultures remember a great flood, fire, or shaking that changed their world. Sometimes these stories help archaeologists find real ruins buried deep under mud or ash. The truth and legend are mixed together, but both show how disaster is part of all human stories. Survivors of disasters often keep the most basic lessons. They remember how to start a fire, build a simple shelter, or find clean water. Some knowledge is lost, but the most important skills for life are shared with children and carried to new places. In these ways, people keep going, even after great and sudden change. Disasters can also make groups stronger. People who live through hard times must help each other, share food, and protect the small and the weak. They remember their losses in stories, names, and sometimes in the things they build. Some make special marks or build stones to remember the lost. These acts of memory help people feel connected, even when everything else has changed. Sometimes, after a disaster, the land is better for new life. Ash from volcanoes can make the soil rich and help plants grow. Floods bring new dirt that can feed fields. But these changes come with pain, loss, and the hard work of starting again. In some cases, people do not come back, and the land stays empty for a very long time. In a few places, old tools or walls are better made than similar things found in later times. This makes scientists think about what may have been lost. Maybe whole ways of building, making pots, or using fire were forgotten when groups were destroyed. When new groups start again, they have to learn everything by trying, watching, and sometimes making mistakes. The new tools or houses are not always as strong or clever as the old ones. In some places, stories about lost cities are all that remains. People hear tales of strange places where great buildings once stood, now lost under trees, mountains, or water. Children grow up hearing about cities where people could do things never seen today. Sometimes, explorers or scientists use these stories to search for old ruins. When they find walls, tools, or roads hidden under the earth, they begin to guess what happened so long ago. Floods and storms can move huge amounts of earth, rocks, and water. In only a few hours or days, whole villages can be wiped away. In later years, only small clues remain. Stones shaped by human hands, bits of pottery, or piles of broken tools. The rest is covered and hidden. There are also signs that sometimes the people themselves left before a disaster. If they saw the river rising, the earth shaking, or the sky growing dark, they might pick up their children and rush away. In these cases, almost nothing is left behind. Some places have only a few broken things to show that anyone was ever there. Layers found in the earth can tell the story. Under a field or forest, one layer may be simple dirt. Below, there may be ash, blackened wood, or broken bones. Below that, normal earth again. These layers record when fire, flood, or shaking came to a place. Scientists read these layers like pages in a book, each one showing a time of life or disaster. Some parts of the earth show clear marks of giant waves. On the tops of hills, big stones from the sea are found. Shells and sand appear far from any ocean. These are the fingerprints of old disasters, remembered in the rocks, bones, and stories of the people who lived through them. Even after a disaster, life can begin again. Birds come back first, then plants, animals, and sometimes people. The land heals, storms end, and the world changes shape. If people return, they bring new ideas, new hopes, and new ways of living learned from loss. Every new beginning carries memories of what was lost and lessons for the future. When huge groups disappear after a big disaster, it is hard to find out what was forgotten. Maybe special ways of counting, making, or healing were lost. These secrets can remain hidden for thousands of years until someone finds a stone tool, drawing, or old wall. Sometimes, the oldest and best-built things are left from people who were lost and forgotten long ago. Their skills may have been better than later people remembered. When a disaster takes away one group, new people who come later find the ruins but cannot always understand them. The story of disaster is part of the story of humans. Every group hopes for peace and safety, but nature and the world sometimes bring great change. Each time a disaster comes, life starts again, knowledge is shared, and something new happens. Even today, stories about old disasters help remind people to respect the earth and remember the lessons of the past. These lessons are passed on in stories, in songs, and in the careful work of those who look for clues in the earth, trying to understand what was lost and what still remains. When people search the earth for stories of the past, they sometimes find objects and buildings that raise new questions. After disasters and changes, what is left can be strange, unusual, or even impossible to explain. These discoveries are called artifacts. Some of these artifacts do not match what we think people knew in the past. They seem too advanced, showing skills that surprise scientists and make more mysteries to solve. People wonder if there were forgotten secrets, old knowledge, or special ways of doing things that we cannot understand today. All over the world, artifacts are found that do not fit in with what is expected from their time. For example, sometimes archaeologists find stones shaped into perfect spheres. These spheres are so round and smooth that it looks as if they made them with special tools or careful methods. Some are very big and some are small. They are made from hard rock that is not easy to cut or shape with simple tools. When these stones are found, people ask how they were made and why. Some artifacts are pieces of carved rock or bone that look like maps or plans. These pieces show shapes, lines, and places that seem to show rivers, paths, or groups of houses, but no one knows who made them or what they truly mean. There are also stones with strange marks that look like writing, but it is not any kind of writing people know today. Some of these marks repeat in different places over many miles and many years. The meaning of these marks is lost, and only ideas about their purpose can be made. Many times, archaeologists find objects with surfaces so smooth or polished that it is hard to imagine how they did it. Grinding hard rock into perfect shapes would take years by hand. Some artifacts show cuts or holes that are straight and even, as if made with machines or metal tools. But these objects come from a time when people did not have metal or machines, only stone, bone, and wood. This makes people wonder if there were lost techniques or forgotten ways to work stone and other materials. In some places, artifacts look like small figures, discs, or rings made from rock, clay, or metal. They can be so well made and balanced that they would be difficult to make even with modern technology. There are objects that have been drilled with tiny holes, with each hole lined up perfectly. These may have been used for special purposes, or maybe they are just for beauty. Sometimes the use of an object is a complete mystery. Ruins are also filled with strange discoveries. Some walls are made with huge stones fitted together so perfectly that not even a thin piece of grass can fit between them. The stones are cut in unusual shapes with many corners and sides. This way of building is not found everywhere, and it seems to appear suddenly in certain places. Nobody has found the simple steps to explain how these walls were built. The tools used are missing or do not match the kind of work found. Other times there are objects that look like tools but do not fit any known use. Some shapes are strange, with lines, holes, and even parts that move. Without clear evidence, nobody can be sure what these tools did, who used them, or why they were made in that way. There are other things found that look like models or copies of something bigger. For example, a small object may have the shape of a bird, an animal, or something else. Some objects look like tiny boats, wheels, or humans with wings. These models look very different from normal everyday tools or gifts. Some experts believe they are only toys or symbols, but others wonder if they represent things that have been forgotten. Old clay tablets, bones, or pieces of metal have been found with marks, scratches, or special holes. Sometimes these look like numbers or signs for counting. Some people think they are the first steps toward writing or keeping records. If a group of people knew how to pass messages or memory through marks, maybe more knowledge could be kept safe from disaster or forgetting. But often these marks do not match any writing people know. Sometimes glass, crystal, or stones are shaped into exact spheres, lenses, or flat mirrors. The clearness and quality are very surprising. Questions grow about how the makers shaped and smoothed these hard materials. Polishing stone or glass is difficult even today. In some groups, these polished objects may have been used to start fires, look at the sun, or see far away. But the true use remains unknown. There are places where metal objects are found, even from times when people are not believed to have learned melting, shaping, or working with metal. Simple beads, rings, or thin wires are sometimes mixed in with much older objects of stone and clay. Pieces of copper, gold, or iron may appear alongside much simpler tools. These early metal pieces are sometimes very pure and well made. The way they were created is a mystery because the fire and tools needed are not found in the same place. Some stones or walls show marks that look like pictures of the sky, stars, moon, or sun. Groups may have tried to copy what they saw above them. Patterns of dots, lines, or animal shapes appear on rocks from many places. Some of these pictures are carved into the hardest rock or placed in hidden caves where only a few people would ever see them. The size and care of these works show they were important, but their meaning was probably shared only by those who made them. There are tales about objects dug up from deep rock that seem even older than the first people living there. Sometimes, strange things are found in layers of earth far below the oldest tools or bones known. These could be rocks shaped by nature, or maybe real objects made by ancient groups who disappeared long ago. The debate continues because finding true proof is difficult after so many thousands of years. Scientists also find very old remains of buildings with shapes and styles that do not match the times or places they are found. Some ruins look much more advanced than others nearby, with perfect lines, well-cut walls, or even signs of floors and stairs. The builders may have used secret ways to lift, fit, or cut stones, or maybe they learned from people and places now lost to memory. In some places, buried in mud or sand, wheels, axes, or special machines have been found that do not match the kind of life people thought existed at that time. Sometimes these items are found alone, and sometimes they are found with bones, pottery, or tools. Each object changes the way the story of human life is understood and brings new questions. Throughout history, there are pictures painted on rocks or walls of objects that look unusual. People in ancient times drew shapes that look like flying objects, strange animals, people with special clothing, or things not seen today. Maybe these were only stories, dreams, or symbols, but they make people wonder if other kinds of knowledge were once common. A few places in the world have very old and big stone heads, statues or faces with features not seen in anyone living now. They may have been made to honor someone, show power, or remember a story. The size and shape of these statues are surprising, and the skills needed to create such work are still studied. There are myths and memories told through many generations about special weapons, lost treasures, or gifts from the sky. In stories from far places, people talk about objects of light, sound, or power. Some people believe old artifacts are proof these stories are true, but scientists always look for strong evidence before making conclusions. In some cases, scientists find puzzles in old bones. There are skulls or skeletons with healed marks that show advanced care or treatment. Bones are found with holes that were carefully cut, and there are signs that people lived after such treatment. This shows people had ideas about medicine and healing that were more complex than what is usually believed for their time. When strange artifacts are found, people try to understand their purpose. They examine how it was made, what material it is from, and how much it looks like other things from the same place and time. Sometimes the answers are never found and the mystery stays. These objects are often put in museums or special places for people to learn and wonder. Sometimes objects are found that only work together as a set. Stones with holes, arranged discs, or cups that fit perfectly inside bigger objects. These suggest people planned and measured, not just made objects by chance. People think about old myths and stories when they find mysteries. Some believe ancient groups were taught by visitors from far away, or that there were once civilizations with special technology or knowledge. Others believe all strange objects can be explained by natural ways. Many scientists prefer to collect more evidence and think carefully before making ideas about how strange objects were made. Each new discovery helps understand what people once knew or did. Even the things that make no sense show how curious and skilled people were in ancient times. People did not stop learning. They solved problems, shared secrets, and tried new ideas. Every mystery is an invitation to keep looking, to learn more, and to ask new questions. Strange artifacts and buildings help everyone see that history is not simple. It is full of discoveries, puzzles, and surprises. These finds show that our world was shaped by searching, wondering, and learning at every stage of life. Having found so many artifacts and objects that do not fit easy explanations, ancient people clearly paid attention to the world. They used not only their hands but also their minds. Some of their knowledge may connect to things now lost, things that only become visible in the sky, the movement of the moon and sun, or the lines of stars. These clues lead scientists and people who love history to look beyond the earth and search for signs of early wisdom above, in the patterns of the heavens. After looking at old objects made by hand and at strange marks and shapes that might be connected to ideas about the world, many researchers begin to look at something else. They notice that early people everywhere paid close attention to the sky. They watched the sun rise and set. They followed the moon as it changed shape, and they looked at stars moving across the night. The sky was important for many reasons. It helped people know when to plant seeds, when to hunt certain animals, and when to prepare for cold or rain. The sun, moon, and stars gave a way to measure time and see changes that happened again and again. Every day the sun comes up in the east and goes down in the west. Its path changes a little each day during the year. Sometimes it rises very far in the north or very far in the south. The longest day happens about halfway through the year. The shortest day comes about 6 months later. Early people watched these changes very closely. They noticed when days started to grow longer and when the night became shorter. These small changes were important. They marked the turning points for rain, snow, or growing plants. The moon was another way to mark time. Every month the moon changes. It grows from a small thin line to a full bright circle and then disappears again. Early groups made marks on bones and stones to count how many days it took for the moon to grow and shrink. Some kept track for many months, marking a calendar without words. With this knowledge, people could plan for big events, follow animal herds, or celebrate during the brightest nights. At night, the sky is full of stars. Some stars make clear patterns, known as star pictures. Different groups in many parts of the world gave names to these patterns. They made their own stories about what these shapes meant. As the year went by, certain star patterns could only be seen during some months. Early people remembered these changes and used them to know seasons and months. When building important places, early people sometimes used special lines and shapes so that buildings pointed where the sun or moon would rise or set on special days. There are old stones standing in circles or rows that line up with the sun at important times in the year. When the first light of morning hits a certain stone, people would know it was the start of planting time or harvest time. A shadow at noon or a bright line at sunset could tell them when to start a celebration. This shows careful watching, good memory, and a plan that took many years to become true. A few old buildings have small holes or windows that let in light at just the right hour. When the sun shines through this hole and lights up a mark on the floor or wall, it shows a special day has come. These days could be the middle of summer, the first day of cold, or another time that people thought was important. The builders had to know where to build and how to measure the angle of the sun's light. People also watched the movement of the stars very carefully. Some groups burned marks into rocks or laid out small piles of stone to point at a bright star or planet. This helped them know when to leave for long journeys, when to make repairs, or when to stay close to camp. When animals moved with the seasons, star patterns could show the best time to follow them. In a few places, very old records show people counting days, months, and years. Even before real writing, there are lines, circles, or small marks on pots, bones, or cave walls that count time. Some groups made round stones with holes or flat discs with notches, each one meaning a day or week. This early counting helped people share plans, build bigger groups, and bring order to their lives. Sometimes, the walls of important buildings are arranged so the sun's first or last light touches special drawings or carvings. These buildings were used for meetings, religious acts, or teaching children about important times. In some places, early people built towers or mounds high above the ground so they could see the sky more clearly. Watching high above helped them see the sun's path or follow the brightest stars. The moon was watched by many groups for many reasons. Some people planned parties, hunting trips, or planting with the moon. When the moon was full, there was more light at night, making it safer to travel or easy to see danger. The dark nights, when the moon disappeared, might be times to stay close, tell stories, or remember the past. A few ancient people noticed something else. They saw that some stars move a little faster or slower. These are planets, but early people did not always know that. They called them wandering stars. By following these wanderers, some groups noticed patterns that returned after many months or years. Sometimes the movement of a bright planet or the path of the moon was seen as a sign, a warning, or a reason to have a special gathering. Making calendars was very important for early farmers. planting at the wrong time could mean hunger later. Some groups used only the sun, others used both sun and moon. Days were counted with sticks, tied knots, or marks on stones. People taught children how to use these marks so that everyone would know the right time for every important thing. In special places, scientists have found marks that line up with stars not seen today. The positions of these stars have changed slowly over many thousands of years. This helps scientists guess when the lines and buildings were first made. If the mark points at a star that was brightest 30,000 years ago, it means people have watched the sky for a very long time. Some old cities and ruins have lines or roads that only make sense when seen from above. These lines might point to the place where the sun rises on the longest day. Others match the place where the moon and stars appear at certain seasons. This shows that early people looked up, thought deeply, and planned how to connect the land to the sky. There are many old stories about the sky. In some, people say the stars are old heroes, animals, or family members who watch over the living. Others say the sun and moon are brother and sister, or are chasing each other. These stories helped people remember what they saw and taught young people to watch carefully. Knowing the sky could help save a village. It told when to expect storm, snow, or heat, and when to celebrate. Living by the sky was not only for leaders or wise people. Everyone in a group could be taught basic things. Children learned that certain stars rise in the east when the time for planting comes. They grew up listening to stories about the sun getting stronger or weaker, and about why the moon changed shape. These lessons were important for working together and living safely. Some artifacts found in caves or villages are decorated with signs that may show the sun, moon, or star patterns. These carvings look like wheels, spirals, nets, or circles filled with dots. Some groups made models from sticks or stones to show where the sun would rise or set. In a few old villages, there are stone pillars or towers placed in ways that let the first sunlight move across a carving or shine through a hole at just the correct moment. People who moved from place to place watched the sky for direction. The stars offered guides for travel. The North Star, which stays in the same place all year, was used by many people to find their way. Other groups learned to use the moon's path or the rising of a special group of stars to know where to go. Sometimes early knowledge of the sky became part of how a group understood itself. Special days were marked with big meetings under the open sky. Songs and dances were done to ask for good weather or to say thanks for food and safety. The sky became not just a tool, but a story, a teacher, and a friend to every group. Counting the days was not always easy. A month could be 28, 29, or 30 days, depending on how a group counted. Some calendars slowly changed, needing to add extra days to stay right with the seasons. Figuring out the correct time needed clear watching, memory, and sharing of stories. Groups that planned well could avoid hunger or trouble. In many old ruins, stones or buildings are set in ways that show people used careful math. They measured lengths, angles, and lines. If a building pointed to the sunrise on an exact day, the builders had to be very good at marking, watching, and building straight. Sometimes even the size and shape of a building or cave room was based on what people saw in the sky, such as how high the sun rose or how far shadows reached. Artists drew pictures of the sun, moon, and stars on stones, pots, or walls. Some look like circles, others like faces, hands, or animals mixed with the sky. These drawings are part of the oldest art found anywhere. They may have been for teaching, for magic, or for celebration. Every mark connects earth and sky. Sometimes there are places where light moves through a building in a special way. The sun makes a bright line, a spot, or a shadow, and this shows a meaning that everyone can watch. These simple ways of marking time are found in many lands, showing that observing the sky is an idea shared by all groups. Some marks and lines point to stars that are no longer the same today because the sky changes very slowly. This helps researchers see how long ago the marks were made. People have used this to say how old a building or road is, even if there is no writing or story left from the builders. There are groups who passed number knowledge from parent to child in secret, using stones, ropes, or small counting sticks. This silent counting helped keep the right times for planting, gathering, or hunting. It also made shared life possible in large villages or towns where everyone needed to follow the same plan. Looking at how early people used the sky and time, we see that they were deeply aware of the world above and around them. They studied carefully, shared their discoveries, and used these skills to help their families and neighbors. The sky was the first big clock and calendar, guiding people in working, resting, and celebrating. As time passed, some of this old knowledge was passed on, and some was forgotten when trouble came. Grandparents taught children, leaders shared wisdom during long nights, and builders showed each other how to mark the sun and stars. In places where disasters happened, some ways of looking at the sky disappeared. In other places, the old knowledge stayed and became part of new groups and new lands. The sky united people with the world far beyond their villages and fields. Early knowledge about the sun, moon, and stars connected everyone, farmers, hunters, leaders, children, in a story greater than one family or group. Learning from the sky brought safety and hope and set the foundation for all the ways people later learned to measure, build, and remember the passing of time. All the skills, stories, and marks in the sky and on the earth remind us that knowledge grows, changes, and sometimes vanishes, only to appear again when new eyes look up and start searching for answers that remain among the stars. When people study how early humans watched the sky, counted time, and passed down stories, they notice something important about knowledge. Some ideas are kept for hundreds or thousands of years, moving from one generation to the next. Other skills are forgotten. As families and groups change, move away, or face disasters, the things people once knew can easily be lost. Sometimes, people remember only a small part of what their ancestors knew. A story, a song, or a simple tool may survive, but the deeper meaning is forgotten. Old knowledge was often shared by speaking, showing, and repeating. Grandparents told children about the sun, seasons, planting, and hunting. They showed how to make tools, how to watch the stars, and how to build strong houses. When people lived close together, it was easier to remember these lessons and to keep secrets safe. Children learned by watching and helping, doing jobs side by side with older people. This way, important facts stayed alive, even without writing. But when families moved, when troubles came, or when only a few people survived, most knowledge could disappear quickly. If the old teachers were lost or children were too young, many skills went away with them. After this, new groups had to learn again by watching, trying, and making mistakes. Sometimes people could not remember how their ancestors built big walls, carved stone, or counted the stars. All they had were the ruins or strange tools that made them wonder. Old stories can change in many ways. Each time a story is told by a new person, words and details may be forgotten, changed, or added. After many years, the beginning or reason for the story is lost, and only a song, a short tale, or a simple name remains. Some important lessons disappear, but small pieces stay. These small pieces may be enough to help remember a time for planting, a warning about floods, or where to look for a safe river. Sometimes people find ruins or objects that look complicated, but the people living nearby do not know who made them or what they meant. These lost skills often show that knowledge can go backwards. After a disaster or big change, new groups use simple ways, because the most advanced skills were forgotten. Later, people seeing these old places think it is strange that things made long ago are better or harder to make than things made later. There are old walls, buildings, and tools found that seem more advanced than what came after them. This is seen in ruins with stones cut so perfectly or stacked so well that later people could not build the same way. Sometimes old pots or beads are well made, but newer ones are rough or simple. This shows that a group once had more skill, but after a time of loss or trouble, they forgot or could not use this skill anymore. Other places show the opposite. Sometimes a small idea is kept safe and grows into something new. A group remembers a way to count, to watch the sun, or to shape a special tool. They teach this to their children. Some groups keep special arts, songs, or ways to use plants. With care, they protect this knowledge, and it stays alive even when big changes happen around them. Some people write myths or stories about where knowledge comes from. They say that wisdom was given by animals, spirits, or heroes. Many times, these stories are about remembering what is most important. In hard times, these stories help people feel hope and give them a reason to keep trying new things. Written language helped people remember more. When groups learned to write words, numbers, or pictures, they could save ideas for people far away and for many generations in the future. But for a very long time, almost all knowledge was kept without writing. It was held by memory, voice, and habit. This made it easy to lose, but also easy to share quickly with anyone who was ready to listen and learn. Music and dance helped people remember too. Songs often carry hidden lessons, like when to plant, what dangers to watch for, or how to ask for rain. Dance steps are repeated in patterns that remind everyone of times, seasons, and stories. Even after much is forgotten, a song or dance may keep an old idea alive, waiting to be understood again. Some secrets are hidden in art. Pictures on cave walls, stones, and pottery record the animals, plants, and events people wanted to remember. Sometimes, drawings show how to make a tool, follow a hunt, or find the stars. Later, if the meaning is lost, people may believe the art is only for beauty, but it is often full of lessons. Objects found by archaeologists can show what was forgotten. When old tools are better made than new ones, something was lost. If a kind of pot or wall is not built anymore, that knowledge was not passed to the next group. Pieces of jewelry, beads, or musical instruments may be found in graves, showing what was special to people, but not telling all the ways they were used or what they meant to those who made them. Travelers sometimes carried ideas to new places. A group moving to fresh land might bring a way of fishing, cooking, or building with them. But if a journey was hard or not everyone made it, only some skills survived the trip. Over time, each new place mixed old memories with new needs. People changed what they could not remember, invented something new, or left the hard things behind. Some groups kept ideas in secret. A family or small group might have a special song, a story, or a way of making something that only they knew. They could choose to keep it safe, to share it during special times, or to never speak of it to others. This kind of hidden knowledge can last a long time, but is always at risk of disappearing if something happens to the group. There are stories about lost books, tablets, or great houses filled with memory, all burned, broken, or washed away by water or fire. When this happened, the people left had only what they could remember. Even the biggest walls or most beautiful objects could not save ideas if people did not keep teaching and learning. Some old stories say that special people saved a few secrets by hiding them in new lands or giving them to children. Many times, inventions we think are new are only old ideas found again. A simple tool or way of doing something can be lost and then found by chance. People may call it a discovery, but it is really a return to something once known. The story of humans is full of rediscoveries, skills learned, lost, and learned again. There are groups today who remember to use the sun, stars, and earth for counting time or finding direction. They build with shapes and materials that were used by ancestors thousands of years ago. In music, language, and stories, some very old things are alive even now, passed from parents to children, changing slowly, but never gone. When archaeologists dig and find something special, it may not always be clear what it was for. A strange tool, a hidden room, or a lost song asks more questions than it answers. Some secrets may never be known again, but every person who tries, studies, and asks is part of the long chain of memory. Each time a skill, song, or tool is used again, it pulls another piece of old knowledge back from forgetting. In some lands, people remember old warnings. They know not to build by rivers that once flooded, or they follow rules about how to plant, hunt, or care for each other. These are not written anywhere, but are remembered as customs, rules, or even simple manners. All of these are ways that groups keep old knowledge alive without books. Not every group was able to remember or protect everything. One family might be known for making pots, another for finding water, another for songs during planting time. All depended on each other, and together they created a bigger body of knowledge. When any group was lost, the whole community lost their part of the shared memory. Some people believe the oldest knowledge is still hidden in myths or symbols. Patterns in weaving, stories told at night, or special stones found in graves may all have messages about the past. Searching for meaning in these clues is hard. Without the right key, a small mark may look simple, but it could hold an important lesson about life, death, or the world. Artisans, builders, and leaders had the most reason to protect secrets. Builders might use secret methods to set stones or guide the sun's light into rooms. Artisans might have a special recipe for the colors they used. Leaders taught young people rules about peace, trade, and safety that could be lost if not carefully remembered. When old towns or cities appear more advanced than those that come after, people wonder what was forgotten and why. Sometimes it was because of war or disaster. Sometimes new leaders did not care about old ways. Sometimes nature changed, and people had to learn new skills and let other skills go. Today, we search for clues about how and why old people remembered or forgot. We use science, stories, and even luck to find pieces of memory. Sometimes children remember things their parents do not and bring back lost skills to light. Sometimes only an old song in a new land keeps a secret alive. Every discovery makes people think about who they are, what they can do, and what might be possible. Knowing that people before us could learn and create, lose, and remember shows that the story of humans is always moving and never finished. Long ago, even after a lost village was covered by trees or sand, people might walk by and not know what was hidden below. Only when digging or building would someone find a stone, a bone, or a tool and realize others once lived there. The ruins and objects became puzzles, waiting for answers. There are places in the world where groups hold ceremonies to remember old ways. They dance, sing, plant, or pray the way their ancestors did. This keeps the link to the past alive. Every year, with each action, a small part of old knowledge returns, changes, or is passed forward. As people keep searching, digging, and asking, the story of humans grows longer and deeper. Old knowledge may be gone in words, but it survives in habits, in art, and in the earth itself. New discoveries can help everyone learn, share, and remember who they are. Even when secrets are forgotten, the effort to remember makes us all part of the long history that connects every person, living and gone, into one great story. Learning about the people who came before us gives us a new way to see ourselves. Every old object, every song passed down, every broken wall under the ground adds to our story. As people dig, study, and remember, it becomes clear that human history is much longer and richer than most ever thought. The story is not just about kings and wars, not only about new machines or great buildings. It is about everyone, every group, every family, every child who learned from the world and who added something to life. Looking back, we see that humans have always searched for better ways to live. For hundreds of thousands of years, people tried, failed, learned, and tried again. They watched the sun and the stars. They built shelters, made tools, and shaped the earth. They created music, art, and stories. They shared food and hope, and they remembered, or sometimes forgot, the things that made life safer, kinder, and stronger. Some groups rose, making special buildings, roads, and art. Others lived quietly, leaving only simple traces of their lives. Each group faced trouble, floods, fire, sickness, or the need to move. Some did not survive, and their homes were lost, but others kept going, carried memories and old knowledge forward, and built new lives. These changes are part of everyone's history. Science and archaeology do not just show what was lost. They show what people can do again and again, find answers, adapt, and keep building the future. Often, we imagine we are the very first to discover new things. When a new machine is built or a question is answered, it can feel like the beginning. But when scientists look at old tools, art, and ruins, it sometimes appears that people long ago knew more than we guessed. Maybe some of our inventions were once known, forgotten, and found again. Each discovery is part of a bigger chain, linking all people through time. When a simple mark on a stone is found, and it matches the sun at a special time of year, it shows how clever early people were. When a broken wall is found under a field, or a pot is dug from deep in the earth, it connects today's families with lives lived long before. Sometimes old graves teach us about what people believed was important, the way people honored their dead, the objects they left, and the way they built their graves shows us love, sadness, respect, and hope all at the same time. This history reminds us that every group has its own story. There are no people who matter more or less. All across the world, in every land and on every island, people have lived, learned, and changed their world in big and small ways. Where writing was not used or was lost, the earth itself keeps the secrets. Every stone tool, every old painting, every path in the grass is a message waiting to be found. Scientists and researchers who study these things are helping us to understand much more. They use new tools, machines that can see under the ground, ways to test the age of a seed, ways to study tiny marks on stone or bone, to fill in the missing years. With help from people who remember old songs, who keep old traditions, and who care about places from the past, researchers make the story clearer. Today, everyone can join in. Reading, listening, thinking, and caring about the past helps the story come alive once more. As more is learned, old beliefs about the beginning of history change. For a long time, many thought history started with the first writing just a few thousand years ago. Now, there is proof that people lived in smart and complex ways for hundreds of thousands of years before. No one group started it all. Knowledge and life flow from place to place, from family to family, from old to young, and sometimes around the whole world. Some places show that people long ago understood things about math, building, and the sky that surprise researchers today. Big stones, perfect circles, marks that match the sun, and stars all show people working together, thinking hard, and watching carefully. Even when knowledge was lost, people kept looking for answers. Early makers, teachers, and leaders tried to help their groups survive and thrive. Even children learned things that helped them be part of something bigger. Every new find is a reminder that yesterday's people were real, full of dreams, worries, and ideas, just as alive as anyone now. They built more than walls. They built families, helped each other, and shaped what was possible for those who came later. If something was lost to time, people made new solutions. The story never stopped. Remembering is about more than facts or dates. It means thinking again about how ideas begin, how they can be saved, and how they can be lost. Sometimes, when digging in the earth, a team finds an object that no one understands. After many years, a child looks at it and finds a new use, or someone links it with an old story. Suddenly, something forgotten awakens. History is not just in books or museums. It is in the way families garden, in the songs they sing, in the patterns of weaving and words. It is in the way people share water, celebrate the seasons, or visit special places. Even simple habits, how food is cooked, how greetings are shared, how stories are told or remembered at night, carry the past, often without people realizing it. Because so much happened before writing, much remains a mystery. Some things will never be found, but every object or tradition that is saved adds to the story. New ways to search, like flying over forests, diving into water, or carefully looking at old tools with strong glasses, keep bringing surprises. Children everywhere can be part of this story. By asking questions, listening to elders, or learning about the land, they keep the story moving forward. When a group remembers how to find clean water, when someone learns to care for the sick, or when a new building is planned using old methods, the past is alive again. All the skills learned, shared, and sometimes lost are part of one long human chain. If knowledge is forgotten, it waits to be found again by new minds, ready to ask and to try. Study, patience, and respect for what came before help everyone see how much there is yet to understand. Some people dream of finding a great lost city, a secret book, or a perfect tool. Others find meaning in a single stone, a plant, a story, or a song. Both are part of the same adventure, the search for who we are, who made us, and where we are going. When ruins show signs of math, building, and care from so long ago, it reminds all people that knowledge is not just new. Sometimes it is old, waiting under the earth, waiting in a song, waiting in the hands of someone learning by doing. Groups that seem small or forgotten may have held secrets now being rediscovered. Old stories about floods, fires, or wise teachers may hide the memory of real events forgotten by history. The way groups survive, adapt, or help others is part of the knowledge that matters most. Every community has its treasures. Some are objects, some are memories, some are ways of living. By caring for these treasures, by sharing and protecting them, each person is part of the great journey of all humans. Knowing this helps people see how to care for nature, for others, and for the earth itself, because all are connected. There are questions that may never have answers. Who built the most puzzling ruins? What was the oldest song ever sung? How many secrets are still hidden? Even if mysteries remain, searching for answers brings people together, helping to share wonder and respect for everyone who came before. Respect for old people, care for children, and sharing of knowledge are ideas that have helped people survive from the very beginning. The story of humans is not only about what is remembered, but about what is made possible in the future. When science and old traditions work together, the full story is much richer. One does not erase the other. Each helps explain what is found and what is missing. People now can choose to learn from both, to keep what is good, to repair what can be fixed, and to imagine new ways of sharing and understanding the world. Every piece of the past, from the oldest stone to the newest idea, belongs to everyone. When a city is built, a field is planted, or a song is sung, people are building on what came before. No one lives or learns alone. All are part of something bigger. Caring for the story of humans means remembering all kinds of people, all kinds of places, and all kinds of ideas. It means honoring the small as well as the great, knowing that big stories are made of many tiny pieces. It means teaching children to listen, to ask, and to share. As the world changes, as new questions come, people can look back and see the long line of others who asked, who tried, who built, who sang, and who dreamed. That line has no end and is open to everyone. Studying the story of people on Earth is not just about finding what was lost. It is also about building hope for what can be found, made, and shared. It is about making sure that everyone, now and in the future, can be part of the great adventure, always searching, always learning, always creating, and always connected by the past.